family mode.
Hi, welcome to Tips and Tricks for Writing Your SIGUCCS Conference Paper. My name is Beth Rudd from Ithaca College in New York. I'm the Professional Development Coordinator for SIGUCCS and will be helping to facilitate this event. Trevor Murphy, Instructional Technologist from Williams College, will be sharing insights into how to write your conference paper, and Gordana Briette will be discussing the actual conference submission and review process. Before we jump into the webinar, let's go over some information about GoToWebinar and some rules of the road. GoToWebinar allows a maximum of 25 people speaking on the conference bridge. So by default, all attendees are muted. In order to manage conversation and not have people talking on top of one another, we will be using the hand-raising feature of GoToWebinar. Could everyone raise your hand now? Nice job, Roxanne, Kendra, Christine, Kathy. I see your hands being raised. Blake. All right, so some of you are a little bit more reticent and haven't raised your hands yet. But you can continue to look for that feature. It should be on the right hand on one of the little pods that are available to you. So you can raise your hand and then we'll know that you have a question. At that point, when there's a natural break, I will help facilitate the conversation between Trevor, Gordana, and you. You can also use the chat feature and send a chat message question to me as a facilitator. So right now, do you all see the chat feature? Do you want to enter in some little chat for myself? Hi, who are you? Something like that, just so that I can know you know how to use that feature. Oh, you all are doing great. All right, Kendra, thank you. I see one of our attendees will be chatting because she's in a populated area and can't use her mic. Thank you so much for being sensitive to that. All right, great. You all also should be able to see the attendee list. I do believe I've made that available to you. We are recording this session, so if everything goes well, then the session will be available on the SIGUCCS website. So, for right now, let's just dive right in, and I'm going to turn it over to Gordana, who will be telling you about the actual conference process. Now, I have to change presenters, and we're going to be switching screens, so that may just take a few seconds. Gordana, you are now the presenter.
It's a technical term for gone wrong. I'm not exactly sure how it got.
And Gordana, we can see your screen.
Thank you, Beth.
Trying to fix that issue has worked even more. So.
Oh dear. Just give me 1 second here.
Either way.
That's why. I do see that Matt has a question about getting lots of background voices. We honestly can't figure out where that's coming from.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely, I was trying to put it back in the domain, and I was like, oh, there's something else going on with this.
Well, she had.
What I'm not sure, is there some attendee who's on a conference speakerphone, perhaps, that is picking up background noise?
Yeah. I'm treating that as a separate issue because I can't even get connected to the campus networking.
Thank you. I think that just changed. Gordana, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm just setting up my screen here. And are you able to see the full screen?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. Thank you, Beth, for all your hard work in organizing this webinar, and we really appreciate it. And I want to thank you all for joining us today as we prepare for the upcoming SIGUCCS 2012 conference that's being held just 5 months from now on October 15th through 19th at the Peabody Hotel in Memphis, Tennessee. Our theme this year is IT All Shook Up, and you may even want to consider having some fun with that theme through creatively incorporating it into your paper title or even in your own presentation. Both myself and Cindy Stewart, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, are thrilled to be this year's program co-chairs for the Service and Support Conference. There are two components to the SIGUCCS conference. The first part is the Management Symposium, which takes place in the first part of the week on October 15th through 17th. And paper requirements are different from service and support. The management sessions will be a facilitated discussion format, and as such, no papers are written for these sessions. The next component is the Services and Support Conference that takes place October 17th through 19th. And a final paper is required, and we will be talking more about this in today's webinar. You have already taken the first step when you submitted your abstract, and we thank you. It's your contribution that will make this conference a success. By now you should have received an acceptance notice via email. And the next part is the paper reviewing process, and this begins with you writing your first draft. The paper reviewing process will be completed on June 25th when you will have written and submitted your final paper. I would like to emphasize some important things for you to remember. The very first thing you want to do is go to the website and download the template of your choice. You can choose from a Microsoft Word template or a LaTeX template, and I cannot stress enough how important this is. Papers not written in this template will need to be redone. The download link of the official ACM templates was included in your acceptance email, which was sent out last week from myself and Cindy Stewart. You're also going to be required to enter the correct ACM categories and subject descriptors. The general terms and keywords are listed on the ACM website, and you just need to choose the ones that are appropriate for your paper. You'll be required to submit each of your paper drafts into the Content Management System database, and these step-by-step instructions that you see here were included in your acceptance mail as well. Track chairs and paper reviewers are being assigned to your papers, and they'll guide you, the authors, through each draft and copyright acceptance and final submission to ACM, where your paper will be published. Your presentation type determines the number of pages you are required to write. Full papers are to be 4 to 8 pages in length. Panel presentation papers are to be 3 to 5 pages in length. And poster papers are to be 2 to 4 pages in length. Here's a look at the schedule. You'll see there is approximately 2 weeks between dates of when your next draft will be due. Readers will review and give you feedback on your paper, at which point you can make any necessary changes and resubmit to CMT. This process will repeat itself through to the completion date of June 25th, 2012. When you're all done, you will have a nice looking paper, such as this fine one written last year by Trevor Murphy. And Trevor Murphy is going to walk you through his tips and tricks on how to write your fantastic paper. So before I hand it over to Trevor, are there any questions?
Gordana, are any of the questions that I sent you earlier relevant for this part of the presentation? Many of the attendees had, or a few of the attendees had submitted questions on that Google Doc. I just want to make sure all of those are addressed.
Oh, all right. Are you able to see the answers that I sent you? I'm trying to recall, or could you just read to me the questions?
Yes, of course.
I don't have them handy, sorry.
No problem. First question that came in, does abstract have to match the abstract in the program?
Yes, it does. It will be on the website, and it does need to match. However, you, the author, can edit it and change it as many times as you wish through the CMT, the Content Management Database.
Great. What is the updated copyright statement for page 1? for page 1? What, or I guess where is the updated copyright statement?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know I waited and waited for it last year, and we didn't get it until towards the end. I've already contacted ACM, our Sheridan contact through ACM, and they're working on getting that through to us as soon as possible, and that will be sent through email to authors as soon as we receive it.
Thank you. Third question. From someone who is he or she is a first time using the system. When I log in to see my abstract, do I need to create a new submission to upload my paper draft? So I think they're actually specifically asking about the content management system for submissions.
Right. You do not need to start a new submission. The one that you've already started when you entered your abstract is the same one that you will go into to upload and submit your paper. And so the instructions were included in the email. Of course, if you need any assistance, you can contact myself or Cindy Stewart or your track chair when that becomes available to you.
Next question, how will we initially be contacted by our reader? And will it be the same reader for the first and second and final draft or different people?
You will be first contacted, I would say, by the end of next week. We're in the process right now of contacting track chairs and readers and assigning them to your papers. You will have the same readers, hopefully, throughout the whole process, unless something happens and the reader cannot be available. Somebody else would step in. But it should be the same reader for your paper throughout.
Great. And this is the last question that was submitted via the Google Doc. Will tips for using the system be included? I struggled with it last year as a reader after a few years of happily using the prior Plone-based system.
Oh, yes. I have been learning the new CMT system myself, and last year's program chairs, Chris and Parrish, provided some excellent step-by-step instructions. So we do have those to pass on to you. And definitely, if you do have any questions, again, please do not hesitate to contact myself or Cindy Stewart. We're here to help you.
Great. So, Gordana, those were all the questions that were previously submitted. I don't see any hands raised, and I don't see that any new questions have come in via the chat. So I think I will go ahead and change the presenter over to Trevor. Trevor, you are now the presenter. And yes, we can see your screen, Trevor.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I can hear you, Trevor.
Fantastic. Does everyone see my first slide?
I can see it, Trevor.
Great. So I'm going to take you through my process for writing papers for SIGUCCS. And I'm calling it an informal guide because I'm not sure what everyone else does. I'm just showing you kind of my step-by-step approach. And I've written quite a few of these papers, and I find that this is what works for me, so that's what I'm sharing. The first thing I do is I download the template. I use the Microsoft Word template, and right out of the box, the most important thing that it has for me is the style. The styles that we're going to use. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So I like to turn on the paragraph button. I have an arrow pointing to it. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but it's a little paragraph sign. I turn that on so that throughout you can see the little paragraph markers throughout the document. There is information in these paragraph markers about the formatting, and so as I delete things and paste things in, I'm always careful to leave them as they are. It just helps me to make sure of what I'm cutting and pasting. The styles that come with the template are what makes the paper look professional. Everyone uses the same styles. It's non-negotiable what the format is. But as a result, when you look through a collection of papers from ACM SIGUCCS, they're recognizable. You can find the information you're looking for, and it's pretty reliable. And so if you haven't worked with styles before in Microsoft Word, it's worth taking a look at. So my approach would be to open up the template that you downloaded, and as you select text from the abstract, you can look at the style that's applied to it. It'll be called abstract, and if you select headings, it'll give you the names of them. It's helpful to know what the styles are called if you want to make sure something is formatted appropriately. I like to have a copy of the downloaded template available that I can reference as I'm working along to make sure things are the right style. I might say, oh, is this body text or is it supposed to be normal? And I can go and I can check on the template and say, oh, that's what it's supposed to be. I find that helpful. So the first thing I do, I already have an abstract and a title. I will replace that text in the template with my new information from my paper. And all of a sudden it looks like a real draft. I'll save it. And one of the first things that happens, it happens to me every year in any case, as I put in the abstract, the template has a very short abstract. As soon as you put a certain amount of text in, there is some page break issues that pop up, and I think it's part of the template. So this is what it looks like. Suddenly your right-hand column is missing, or part of your right-hand column goes away, and it's confusing. And every year I'm like, oh yes, this is the page break. And so what I need to do is go into draft view. If you go under Microsoft Word view draft, it shows your paper in a different kind of format, and the page breaks are in blue. And if you position your cursor to the left-hand side of the page break and hit the delete key, that page break or section break will disappear. But with all template issues, it's important that they're not such a burden to you that it interferes with your actual authorship. If you are struggling with a template instead of writing, I would encourage you to focus your efforts on the writing, because track chairs and readers can definitely help you with template issues. It's harder to help you with getting your draft completed if we don't have a draft to look at. So don't let it get you down. I've learned more about Microsoft Word through this process than I perhaps wanted to, but in the end I think that the papers do look really professional when we reach the final part, and it is a nice outcome. So I've got an abstract and I've got a title, and the next thing I do is I sit down and try to think, what are those main section headings going to be? And my paper's on video, so I was thinking about breaking it into historic support, current support, and future support, and then breaking that down into subcategories of things that happened before, are happening now, and will happen in the future. And I always like to start a paper with a section about the college I'm at, so that readers will get an idea if this support model will work for them, because they'll see if the school I'm at is like the school they're at. Does it scale, or is it the same size? And that's important information to have. So I like to start a paper that way, and then as you fill in these section headings and subheadings, the paper starts to take its shape. I wouldn't skip this step. I think this is an important step in terms of plotting out your whole paper. And if there's a piece missing, your readers might notice that you didn't say anything about your school or what's happening next, or they might suggest a whole section be added. So spend some time thinking about what questions people might have for you, and that might help inform what you include in your paper. Of course, your paper is linked to your abstract, but this step will help you organize your information, and I think that's an important step. So the next thing I do is I go ahead and throughout the paper put in my new headings and subheadings, even though the text is still the text that came with the template. And if you are missing a subheading, you can type it in and give it the subheading style, and it will suddenly auto-number itself for you. So you don't have to worry about that. If you're having difficulty filling in the text with the real text, or you don't know quite what to write, or everything you write you're not sure if it's the right thing, another step that I'd recommend is to go in and for your subheadings add subheadings. You can see this in some papers, and in fact there's a style for it as well. If it helps to break it down into smaller pieces, I like to encourage, I'd encourage you to do this, because it'll allow you to make it a bite-sized piece so that the writing is not mysterious. You're answering questions, you're describing what's going on, you're describing how it works, and the result will be a very readable paper, and people will be able to look at the paper and find the information they're looking for right away. And by making it these smaller pieces, it's more akin to maybe the writing you do every day. We're not writing papers perhaps every day, but writing descriptive emails about what we've been doing or what we hope to see in the future is definitely something that we do, and those bite-sized chunks also apply here to filling in these smaller parts. And your reader will help you if they have questions or about how to make it more clear. Finally, classifying your paper. I know that this is a confusing step sometimes. I don't think it really has to be, but mostly I think it's confusing because we leave it as the last thing we do. I think if you're taking a break in your writing and you have a little bit of time, it's good to go ahead and take a look at these. And basically what I recommend is you can go to past papers, or you can just go to the website or talk with your reader or track chair what they think is appropriate. But if you go to the website and actually do a search through the main branches that they have defined, you'll see that the ACM categories, a lot of times they're geared towards really specific types of computing research, and they're not applicable. But there are a few topics that do apply quite often, and if you find them, it's really a matter of familiarizing yourself with all the different classifications. I've found that that's worth doing. If you are in a hurry, sometimes you pick one and you'll explore it, and you'll find that, well, based on the subcategories, this isn't really what I was thinking, and you'll have to try again. But you will find one that is an approximation, of what you're doing. We do fit in within the ACM classification, and this helps them sort papers according to what people are searching for so they can find your paper. So it is an important step. The general terms, for video, I'm thinking documentation applies, economics does not. But I'll think about each one of those and think about, does this apply? I tend to like human factors, but I know that for some of these terms, they're very specific to the research that they do. So performance is probably not workday performance, it's probably processor performance, is my guess. But you also have the option of keywords, which are a little more open-ended. So that's where I could put video, audio, some keywords that would apply to the video support that we do on campus, things that would be easier for my colleagues to perhaps search for and find. And then before we go to questions, I just want to mention that a modest draft can be improved. And if you are struggling, I would recommend that you lower the bar for a moment for what your expectations of yourself. Of course, you want to write a great paper, and we want you to be successful as an author. But write an okay paper and then ask for help, and it will become a great paper. But if you let that high bar scare you and keep you from getting to the writing, I think this is a good approach. They're saying it's okay. This is going to be an okay draft, and then we'll make it better later. So that's kind of my process. Some of the major things that I've encountered in writing these, and I'd like to open it up to questions to see what people think about this, and if they have other things to add perhaps, or if they have areas that they're struggling with.
This is Beth. Does anyone have any questions? You can either raise your hand or use the chat feature. I guess, Trevor, it looks like, and Gordon, it looks like we might be okay. I know personally I've written many papers. Oh, wait, here we come. There is a question. Do you recommend using metrics in the form of graphs or charts?
I do. I know that we tend to write more qualitative papers than quantitative, but if you do have graphs or charts that are relevant, that's fantastic. I would encourage you to pursue that, because not all of us are as familiar with metrics as we should be, and I think that if it helps tell your story, that's definitely an important part to include.
Karen Sermon, I just unmuted you, so I see your hand is raised. Do you have a question? Karen, if you can hear me. Okay. I see your hand's gone down. No problem. Trevor, there was another, Kathy Fletcher mentioned that, quick note, the section break and page break do not appear as thin blue lines in the Windows version of Word. Do you use the Windows version, Trevor, or the Mac version?
I'm using the Mac now. I've used Windows in the past.
So probably the page break view will still work. It may just not look like a blue line.
Someone would have to refresh me what it looks like, or what version of Word, but I think that the approach of going to draft view and deleting them is the way to go.
Okay, and Kathy does say right. You'll see them, they're just not blue. We're wondering, we have an attendee, Christine, wondering if anyone could demo the CMS on how to upload your first draft. She's saying when I got to create a new paper submission, it only gives me the option of tutorials to check under track. Is that correct? Gordana, can I turn the presentation over to you? Would you feel comfortable demonstrating the submission process?
Actually, what I would rather do is, and that's just because I have somebody else here in the office right now. If I could just get her email address, I will contact her via email.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
I can give you that. If anyone else wants Gordana to contact her regarding the submission process, I guess just send you an email, Gordana. Will that work?
That would be lovely. Yeah.
Okay, and I think I can say this. It was Christine Vlasinich who had a question about the submission process and seeing that.
Okay. Okay, Christine. I'll be in touch through email.
And I just want to mention, I appreciate everyone's patience as we kind of learn to use this technology to deliver information. It is new to all of us, but I appreciate your patience as we learn how to do this well. Kathy Fletcher also mentioned that using the paragraph mark is a trick to perhaps getting the blue line or the page break. I'm not sure, Kathy, what context was that, but Kathy did make that note. Kathy, let me unmute you. Kathy, are you on speaker?
Oh, yes.
Would you like to just comment? I don't want to misrepresent you or miss the point.
Oh, I was just saying, let me see here. I was just saying that the paragraph mark that Trevor pointed out is the trick in both versions of Word. It's just that what you see looks remarkably different because Microsoft Office on a Mac is so different than Microsoft Office on a Windows computer in the look and feel aspects of it. So if a Windows user goes looking for thin blue lines, they're not going to see them. It's actually more gray, and it's marked section break and page break. But my other two questions, that was just a follow-up to the discussion about the thin blue lines. My other questions were about the May 7th deadline and the content management system, because I had a really hard time last year uploading drafts as a reader. I found it very, very difficult to use last year, and I don't recall useful instructions. I could go and grab the author's drafts, but I found it very difficult for uploading stuff back into the CMS. And like I said, it might have just been a lot of interference learning.
Okay, Kathy, I'm just making a note of that. So it was resubmitting papers was an issue?
I did not do a paper last year. I was just a reader,
okay.
And I found it I could not put the author's papers back into it after I made my edits.
Okay. All right. I will look into that. Cindy or myself can also upload a paper for an author. If you wanted to, you could send it to us, but rather I'd like to first, figure out what was going wrong for you, and then make sure that we make it right. But
yes.
we can also help with that. So yes, I will look into that and get in touch. And that's Kathy Fletcher, right?
Right. And okay. I'm just concerned because I want to be a reader again this year, and I found it very frustrating last year.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll make sure to go through the instructions again and see that they're working properly.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm going to just mute you again. Matt, I see that you had a comment about charts and graphs. Do you want to share that with the group?
Yeah, I found, because I have shared a few charts and graphs in the past, that Word sometimes will change the formatting of them if I paste them as a chart or graph. Rather, what I do is I will paste them as an image in Word. That way, you keep all the formatting that you created in Excel or whatever your graphing program was. So if people aren't familiar with that on the PC, when you go to paste something, you have other options under that paste button, and you can paste something as an image as opposed to content.
Great, thank you, Matt. Kendra, I'm going to unmute you. I see that you have a question, but it's kind of interesting hearing other people's voices. So do you want to ask your question? Oh, Kendra may not be there. Kendra was asking Gordana, she's writing the paper for submission but will no longer be with her institution when SIGUCCS happens. Should she include an additional author so folks have somebody to contact, or should I include a section at the end of the paper with that information?
A section at the end of the paper with that information would be most helpful. If she's to remain the author, then, you know, if she's going to be the author and she's going to be at SIGUCCS presenting, then her name on the paper is adequate. But definitely if she'd like to let the audience know who they can contact thereafter, I would suggest that she makes that information available in her presentation.
Great, thank you. Well, I'm looking through the questions, and I believe they have all been answered. I'll just start into our closing, but feel free if anybody has any other questions just to either type it in or raise your hand. I think first and foremost, I know Gordana, Trevor, and I have all written papers. We've all been readers, track sharers. We've gone through this process. So first and foremost, we appreciate the time and effort that you're putting into this. And professionally, as an assistant director, I can speak that it really does impress me if people have written and been published in some way. So I think this is well worth the effort you're putting into it. I did want to let you know that we're getting excited. We anticipate the SIGUCCS 2012 conference registration to be opening up in the next few weeks, and we hope you'll all be able to participate in the conference. I'm just looking at a few more. Okay, we did have a couple more questions. Gordana, what if I need more time for the first draft?
Absolutely. If you could let me know an email, then we can share that information with your track chair and your readers. So if you could send me an email.
Great. I'll let Kathy know that. And so I guess finally, thank you. We really hope this helped you out in some way, and I know Gordana is certainly available as a resource for any of your paper writing questions. We will also be working with the conference committee to put together another webinar concerning presentation style tips and tricks, probably in September. So as you actually get through the paper process and then move into actually having to present the information, we'll be hosting another one of these webinars. And then finally, I believe in the next couple of weeks, we'll also be hosting webinars on instructional and e-classroom design, as well as I believe we're hosting one on what's growing on your keyboard from the University of Rochester. My name is Beth Rugg, and again, feel free to email me if you have any questions. We thank you for your time and your attendance. This webinar is now concluded.